When people discriminate or judge others based on their sexuality or gender.
Like the way that we're discriminated against.
Kind of how we will define or separate males and females.
Just any prejudice or discrimination or predetermined notion based on someone's gender.
So obviously like sex is like male, female. But like for me, it's been kind of like a struggle to like categorize, because I guess like in your mind you always try to categorize people, right? Like you're like, oh, this person looks like this person looks like this. But like with sexism, I feel like sexism is like when women are like marginalized, but also like with the LGBTQ community coming out, I feel like sexism has become like a lot bigger.
I think sexism means one sex thinking they are better than the other sex and treating the other sex in a derogatory way.
Sexism, usually when you think of it, is men being put before women and men being higher than women and more important.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it is definitely still a problem.
I do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's evolved and it's changed, and it means different things for men and women, but absolutely it exists.
Yeah, I think sexism is a huge problem in modern American society.
I think that it is still a problem, although it's not something that I experience regularly.
I think that it is still a problem, and that's why feminists are rising up everywhere, and there's so much media coverage on it and talk about sexism and similar subjects in schools.
It's everywhere.
From the youngest I can remember, I've been bombarded by images of really like sexualized images of women.
Like the college society, like since I'm in college, I see it everywhere.
That really perpetuates a stereotype of like what women are supposed to be like, and what we're supposed to act like, and how we're supposed to be. And I think for me, it's just been like really difficult because I grew up kind of as like a tomboy, trying to fit into that role of being like, am I girly enough? Being judged, I guess. Like the first time I guess I really noticed like what boys and girls were, like differences, is like when I was little and I was playing soccer. And my dad was like, okay, shirts and skins, because he was a coach. And I was like, oh, I want to be a skin. Why can't I be a skin? And everyone's like, oh, you can't be a skin. And that's when I was like, why? Why can't I be a skin? Why can't I participate in something that I want to do?
The one that comes to mind like immediately is when we were kids, actually back in, I believe it was middle school. Our principal wanted these mats moved from the gym. Like there were these big blue mats that you usually use for, I think it was like wrestling or something. And our principal was like, wow, these need to get moved, I'll go get some men to move them. I'm like, okay, yeah, like we can move them, Mr. Fossey, we can do this ourselves. And he was like, no, I'll go get men.
I think for me, what I notice a lot is women with children. The assumption that they're always the caretaker, and even conversely towards men, that they're just the babysitter. I think that's one thing that really bothers me.
Just referring back to my English teacher, she was telling us today about how because she is a woman of color and because she is a woman, men were looking at her in her profession saying that she only got her job out of pity and that maybe she shouldn't actually even hold her job.
Ever since I've been young, I've been like just fighting. Well, I'm a political science major, and like people being like, women are in government. Like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna say? Like, you can't represent people. You don't know what people want. You're a girl. You have so many feelings and emotions that's gonna skew the way you think about things. And like, I feel like our whole lives we're told that, like, oh, it's okay to cry because that's what girls do. Oh, it's okay to do this because that's what girls do. But like when we do something that we're not supposed to do, we're considered bossy or bitchy and stuff like that. Guys are like that all the time. Like that's what makes a corporate man, right? Like telling people what to do and like being competitive. But for girls, like you can't do that. You can't be like that. And I think that's like one thing that I've always wanted to fight against is just be like, no, I can do what I want. I can be who I want and without like judgment, And I think like in society, like being a woman and like fighting against that is like so wrong and like we're pushed down.
Probably not since high school. And that was probably more objectification than sexism. I personally have been blessed to have men in my life who have treated me with respect.
How women are always, they're expected to be at home all the time with their children, they're expected to have children, but whenever it's the woman that goes out and work, it's always looked down upon as she's not a good mother or she's not going to be a good role model for anyone because she's not doing her womanly duty.
It's hard because I'm also like an older sister and I want to set like a good example for my younger sister, but it's so difficult. Like I want to like show her like, oh, you know, you can do whatever you want to be, but like at the same time I still deal with like my own struggles of being like, oh, I know you can't be that kind of thing. I know you can't be certain things because that's not what women do. When I was little, I was like, oh, I want to be an astronaut. But then when I think about it, like, there's not a lot of female astronauts I knew, right? Like, there's not a lot of images of like female astronauts. And my sister's like, well, I want to be a scientist. And the first thing I think of as a scientist is a guy, because we're not taught about them. We're not taught about like women scientists. We're not taught about like women in engineering or STEM fields. Instead, society tells us like women are supermodels and women clean the house. And that's just really frustrating.
Well, especially with jobs, I feel like women don't get paid, not always equally to men, even if they're doing the same job or have the same position.
You know, like with the wage gap, there's a million different factors that go into that. But instead of telling me that it doesn't exist, it exists. It's a fact. There are many studies taking many variables into account, and it exists. So why am I not allowed to comment on that without, you know, getting thrown back in my face that I'm basically a man-hater? 3 male counterparts, and we're all the same age. I had more experience. We all had the same level of education, but I had more of a background that pertained to that. I made the least amount of money on the team. I only knew this because they brought up their wages. That's not something I ever really thought to bring up, but you know, it really made me question, well, why? You know, why did I make less? And they say women negotiate a lot less. Well, no, I tried to negotiate, and I was told that was not an option. They were given that option. What do you do with that? What do you do when you are an aggressive female who pushes for those things and you still can't get them, but your male counterparts can?
I want to just live my life the way I want to live my life without people telling me how I should.
I'm not trying to fight with anybody. I just just want to be acknowledged, I guess. So. Nobody should have to go in a toilet stall to feed their child. That's disgusting.
And I'm not trying to downplay how important it is for men and women to be treated equally.
The forefathers didn't want us to have like equal rights or fairness. They just wanted us to continue doing like womanly things, which is ridiculous.